I'm sitting here, and since this podcast has happened, how many women have experienced that?
And the time that people will watch this, what has occurred?
Right. Exactly. 500 women.
Right.
600 women, children. Right. And then we have these babies. I mean, little kids in the mines working day and night in terrible conditions for our luxury. Right. And it just kind of all of a sudden makes me be like, okay, now how can I not do something?
Welcome. My name is Stephanie, and this is our first episode of a new show that we're doing called Amplifying Good, where we're putting spotlights on individuals and organizations that are doing amazing work around the world to positively impact communities. And today, for our first episode, we have an organization called Africa New Day that's doing incredible humanitarian work in the Eastern Congo. And we also have with us the United States CEO of Africa New Day, Harmony Brown. And she's going to be talking to us about the crisis there, exactly what's occurring on the ground, the incredible work that they're doing on numerous different levels, and how individuals and viewers can help.
Hi, I'm Harmony Brown, the CEO of Africa New Day based here in the U.S. And I am so excited to share with you all through this podcast about our organization.
How long has Africa New Day been providing humanitarian aid in the Congo?
Yeah, about 15 years.
Oh, wow. Okay, for a while. And then you joined them 4 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So I kind of like to come in and take everything to the next level. So that's kind of what I've been able to do working with them. And it's really exciting. So
yeah, it's great work going on.
Thank you.
So let's talk about the crisis, the humanitarian crisis that actually is occurring currently in the Congo and the Eastern Congo.
Right.
Because you guys are, Africa New Day is focused, correct me if I'm wrong, in Eastern Congo, right? In Goma?
Yeah. So North Kivu, Goma is the capital, and then we also work throughout North Kivu and then a couple other provinces in that area as well.
Right. And then for individuals that don't know, Goma is located right on the border of Rwanda,
Correct.
right? It's in the Congo, but the DRC, but it's actually on the Rwandan border, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then, but about a year and a half ago, correct? In January 2025?
Yep, January 2025. Yep.
Yeah.
Just like you said. Yes, the city of Goma was taken over by a rebel group called M23, and they kind of came in, and in a matter of days, over 3,000 people were killed in the fighting, but they were able to come in and kind of take over the city, remove the current government, and establish their own government. So for a year and a half, our team, which is about 300 people, we have working in that area alone, and then it's there's more spread out. Have been living under almost like martial law because it's not fully established government, but they were able to kick out the Congolese government and have been running that area. And then the next big city called Bukavu, which is in South Kivu, just the next, like I said, bigger city is also taken over. So the whole region has now been kind of taken over by this group.
Okay. Yeah. And so M23, they're a Rwandan rebel group. Is that correct?
Depending on who you ask.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, the UN and multiple other international organizations has done the research and has proven that M23 and Rwanda are connected. However, the Rwandan government is still continually denying that they are funding and backing that group. So depending on who you ask. The overarching issue is that there's critical minerals, the minerals that are needed for everything in our cell phones to semiconductors to everything. 80% of them are located in that region. And the more it's destabilized through rebel groups, the more those minerals can be, extracted and then taken out without the Congolese being taken care of for those minerals. So
these rebel forces are coming in. They're having conflict and fighting the government, correct?
Yes.
And then they take over as the authority in these locations.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. And then what happens after that?
Then we play a big waiting game.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot happening in DC regarding this peace treaty between Rwanda and the Congo. all of it has to do with the minerals, and then who's going to get the minerals and who's going to get the money from the minerals and all those kind of pieces. So the U.S. has come in and tried to negotiate a deal of peace between these two. So right now, like I said, this region is being run by M23, but in a very almost informal way. No government has given them total permission. So it's negotiating those details still that is at play with it all.
Right. And all of the minerals are actually located in the Congo. Yes. And these outside entities and groups are coming in to have access to take over those, to exploit those essentially.
Right, exactly. Correct? And export them through Rwanda, for example. So right now, Rwanda is one of the number one exporters of these critical minerals, but resource-wise, they don't actually have any of those in country. They are getting them from Eastern Congo.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And working with other powers that be, China, Russia, different entities that are coming in and leasing the mines because they can get in and it's destabilized. So it's hard to regulate anything. And then child exploitation, all those kind of things are happening as well.
Right. So when a rebel group comes in and takes over, like they did in January of 2025 in Goma, they also previously did it, I think, in August of 2014, right? And Beni? Is that how you say that?
Yes.
So that city? Yeah, exactly. So once that occurs, then they essentially become the government, or the rebel force becomes the government or the authority over the location that they have taken over, correct? Okay. Yeah. And then what happens to the citizens and the civilians that lived in those locations?
If they are obedient, they're fine. So if they just submit to whoever's in charge, they're okay. If there is any kind of speaking against them or, any kind of trying to movement that would destabilize that government, usually people are murdered.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we have our founders, because they are pro-Congo versus pro this government. When the rebels came in and took over, we had to get them out as quickly as possible because they both had, their lives being threatened pretty much.
Wow. Are a lot of people displaced when, this type of event occurs?
Yes. Yeah. So the M23 rebel groups, and there's multiple other ones. There's another one, the ADF, and they have actually associated themselves with ISIS. And so they're going in and doing a lot of religious killings.
Yeah.
And so that's another issue that's going on in the area. But they come in and they've just been moving for a while. So M23's come in and ADF has come in and they take village by village, more or less. They go in and wreak havoc, and then everybody flees. And so over the last 2 years, a little bit longer, actually 3 years now, we have seen more and more people being displaced from the surrounding villages and region coming to Goma because of what was happening in their villages. And they're wreaking havoc. And so they're taking one village and then they're taking the next and they're taking the next. And so you have thousands of people being displaced, living in camps, because obviously they're fleeing for their lives. And then now Goma's been taken over. So then there was another big movement of displaced people fleeing somewhere else. So.
Ilikuwa 14 ku 2020. Banabania bibi yake shefu, banabania mtoto wa shefu. Sasa mimi abaya nitia kamba bananja katakata bibi yake shefu na mtoto ule marama mimi nikapambuka mimi nakimbia wakanifatisha masasi, neema ya Mungu nikaokolewa kwa ile masasi, njoo woga ile yote nikakimbia kwenda fikia Marabu.
Kwangu ilikuwa mambao na lile tokie naanja kupiga masasi anja kulunguza banyumba na kufika kwangu kwa baraza mara moja kwenye tulietupa kupoli kuenda bitu yote siyaonaka kitu na siyafikaka tena kumugine.
And these displacement camps are basically set up by humanitarian aid, correct?
Yes, correct, yes.
And thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people live in these displacement camps, correct?
Yes, they do.
There's no electricity, is there?
No running water.
No running water.
So
no restrooms, obviously.
No restrooms, yeah. And no real care. So they're in tents. So they get a little pack, a survival kit more or less, and live in tents.
And do they have any sense of security there that they didn't have in their own homes when the rebel forces would come into their villages and their towns?
I think there's a couple different things at play with that. So yes, strength in numbers, everybody's in this together. So ideally, we're not going to have people come in with machetes and cut everybody's heads off. I mean, because that is the reality. of what happens in these villages. So they're like, we're at least safe from that. But then the insecurity comes with the high, with cholera outbreaks continually, like the high sickness. And then, of course, the sexual violence is off the charts in places like that. So, so you trade one security for, another security, or an insecurity for another insecurity. So, yes.
So Harmony, let's talk quantifiable numbers of what's actually happening on the ground in Goma, especially since January of last year. I know that there are over 700,000 people that have been displaced from their own homes and are now in displacement camps, right? And what else is occurring on a daily basis there in the Congo?
Yeah, the latest numbers that we know right now of children, this is not other individuals that are being exploited and put into slavery, but in the mines, children alone, we know, is over 40,000. And the number is probably 3 times that. So again, back to our phones and people being forced into slavery, exploited, sometimes paid 5 cents a day for our convenience. Those are the numbers we're looking at. And again, it's just children. Women that we know of daily is 1,000 are experiencing sexual violence just in this one region of Congo, which really is 42 women an hour.
Right. 42 women and children.
And children.
And children an hour are being sexually assaulted.
That we know of.
Yeah.
And again, those don't always go reported.
Right.
And there's not a way to document it all. So again, it's many more times that.
Yeah. And even the ones that are documenting it, there is no justice. No. None.
Exactly.
No justice at all.
So what can we do, right? But I like being able to put it in perspective, because all of a sudden I realize I'm sitting here, and since this podcast has happened, how many women have experienced that?
Right. And the time that people will watch this, what has occurred.
Right. Exactly. 500 women.
Right.
600 women, children. Right. And then we have these babies. I mean, little kids in the mines working day and night in terrible conditions for our luxury. Right. And it just kind of all of a sudden makes me be like, okay, now how can I not do something? Right. How can I not do something?
And then there's no justice system. There's no accountability. No. These, victims see the perpetrators regularly after that, absolutely. Correct? Or they're actually kept and enslaved for a period of time.
Right.
The children are, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And there's not much going on. I mean, we've been trying to, we have lawyers, and we have a whole initiative in Goma for, prosecution. And we're working with multiple other organizations to start trying to change that aspect, because you have to go from the top down, right? You have to go where somebody's can make a decision. It might take forever, but at least we're moving in that direction. So that has been one initiative we've been able to do. And then, trying to just get women educated and around that. Don't send your 8-year-old daughter to go get water at these times or alone, but for them, I think there's such a mentality of like survival that it's perpetuated because everybody's just so desperate. Yeah. And so nothing is being done, in an infrastructural, proactive, sustainable way to protect these women and children. It's happening little by little, but it's definitely.
And then another issue, I think, as we've talked about before, is the insecurity of at least the male child soldier or children on the streets that are ultimately taken by the rebel forces and forced to become child soldiers. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. Or taken out. So I think population has increased in Goma over the last few years. Many, many, many children have, fled to the city because there is nowhere else to go. They get separated from their families and then they end up living on the streets. And so the population of street children is exponential in the last couple of years. We've been working with multiple different organizations on an initiative to try to connect these children back to their families or, family members at some point, or put them in homes, like families with foster situations. And then we also have homes that we've established. And so we've been moving very slowly because it takes funding. It takes time, all of those kind of things. But when the M23 came in, they put an edict out saying that in 2 weeks, we are going to clean the city up. right? So they are trying to prove that they're doing better than the Congolese government.
Right.
So one of their initiatives was, we're going to come in and clean the city up, and we're going to get rid of all these street children. And so they put it out there, and the two ways they're getting rid of the street children: they're being recruited into their army, or they are being killed. It's that simple. So then I'm calling BBC, I'm calling UN. We're like getting this out because it was put out there to the community, like this is going to happen, but there was no international, focus on this terrible thing that was just about to happen to these children. And so we got a lot of international attention and a little bit of pressure on that. So it shifted. In the meantime, we went from 3 children's homes to 18 children's homes in a matter of weeks, because we had to get these kids off the street to save their lives, like literally save their lives. And so we've been working day and night to just continue to get those kids in longer term situations or reunited with their families. One family in particular, the rebels came in, everybody fled. And so there were 2 brothers, and they fled off together, and one of them was actually killed. And so the parents found the body of the brother, and of course mourned, and then just had assumed the other one had been killed. Well, he hadn't. He had been put in our program. And so months later, they were able to reunite the family with their son, who they had thought had been killed. So there's stories like that you look at it, and it sometimes feels like this insurmountable need, and you can move into paralysis and be like, I don't even know what to do. Can't even do anything. And you just have to, for years of doing this work, I just have to keep remembering, but there's that one boy and his parents, and now they're reunited, right? And so it's worth it. It's worth that one. And hopefully there'll be more and more, but that's one of the things that we worked on.
Okay, so now let's talk about the great work that Africa New Day is doing to assist all of these children, all of these women, all of the individuals that are being displaced. So I know you have a number of different programs, right? So the first thing you do, obviously, is remove children or individuals from the streets, correct?
Right.
That are displaced, right? And then you house them. Is that correct? Housing and meals.
Yeah, education.
Are they given health care as well?
Yeah. I mean, to the extent that it can be offered.
Right.
For sure. Yeah.
And education, they go to class every day.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then the older ones, they're given vocational training, correct? Like specific skills for them to utilize once they are adults or
even in what situations as possible.
Donc quand je vois un jour nouveau, je vois ma mère. Et partout où je passe, j'ai toujours dit que je viens d'un jour nouveau. Et quand, parce qu'un jour nouveau, c'est une organisation très crédible. On a peur de toi parce que la personne possède, elle a une connaissance. Grâce à un jour nouveau, nous sommes des femmes autonomes. Nous sommes en train d'influencer aussi l'autonomie à des jeunes femmes, même à des jeunes garçons.
Moi, je suis le fruit parfait des générations espoir. Et partout où je passe, partout où je passerai, je ne cesserai de dire grand merci. Je suis très, très, très reconnaissant de ce programme. Non seulement ça m'a aidé du point de vue éducatif ou du point de vue instruction, mais j'ai eu la chance aussi d'être sponsorisé. Et mon université, c'est grâce à la Génération Espoir que j'ai fini ça et je suis très reconnaissant et grand merci.
Also, you have a reunification program that you briefly mentioned earlier, right? For individuals, if they're moved to displacement camps or, unfortunately taken by a rebel force for a certain period of time, if they're reunified with their family, like there's a whole process to reintegrate them.
Yeah, kind of a rehabilitation situation first, and then, the reintegration with their family and their normal life, I guess you could say.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then counseling. You do trauma-based counseling, right?
Yes.
You have a number of counselors that you utilize.
Yeah.
And then you also do Bible study groups, too, right? For both men and women.
Right. Exactly. Yes. So we have something called, Sons of Congo, which if there's a gender-based violence, there's roots to it, right? And you want to empower the women and teach them skills and get them free and, heal from it. But you also want to go to the root cause of it with the men. And so that's what Sons of Congo is to teach positive masculinity and changing the mindset that they've been raised in, that these things are okay.
And I know that Africa New Day has also been working with Congress here in Washington, D.C. to resolve the conflict overall from a substantive perspective, right? How's that going?
Yeah, it's been a wild ride, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think I spent more time in Washington, D.C. this last year than I have anywhere else. And that was just because the doors were opening. So initially, so we do education, advocacy, and economic development are kind of the three pillars of Africa New Day. And a lot of our advocacy work has been in country, like we're saying, like building infrastructure for prosecution of sex crimes or reunification of children. So a lot of like we're getting out there, we're doing that. And then when the crisis happened and it was like, I can't go back to Goma, my founders can't go back to Goma. So what do we do? Well, let's go to DC and knock on every door until we have somebody's attention. Pretty much just how it started.
Right.
So we just started meeting people, getting into any and every congressional Senate office we could to just say, hey, this is what's going on. Do you know this is happening? All those kind of things. And then as we've been there, different things have happened. There's been a peace deal that we've already talked about between Rwanda and DRC, negotiated by, DOA and then also the U.S. and kind of getting in there, trying to bring some stability and some understanding and also having an economic ideal boost for the minerals, coming out of it. So so that's kind of how it started. And then and as that peace deal went through, that we followed it up with writing some resolutions to provide accountability from the people who are actually benefiting or not benefiting from this peace deal, right? And so so we've written a couple different resolutions that are out, there, and then we've had a couple of briefings and hearings on these issues and what is this Washington Accord and this peace deal going to actually do, and how do we make sure that it's beneficial to civil society and everybody on the ground in it versus, the powers that be. So that's been a big part of it. Yeah. So we've been at the Parliament in the EU. We have some openings with the UK Parliament and then also in Congress. And one of our number one initiatives that we're going to be putting through this year is we're calling it the Blood Mineral Campaign. So just like Blood Diamond, when that was all happening, I don't know if you've heard of that. It's Kimberley process. And it was regulations to make sure that the diamonds that are in our rings here in the U.S. or in the EU, wherever it is, are conflict-free, blood-free, right? And so now we're implementing that same process with minerals and then trying to make sure that the big corporations, tech corporations that are using those minerals, Apple, Microsoft, et cetera, actually have regulations in place so that we're not seeing children exploited in the mines, and just people in general, but specifically children's our first focus, and then we expand out from there.
But what are the next steps that you guys will be doing? What's immediately the next thing that Africa New Day will be doing?
Right. Well, I mean, we have just our everyday on the ground, things that are happening with our people. So we're continuing that, continue to grow our school. We have a school of over 1,800 students. So that is like just the daily, everything that's going on. And then raising the funds for it and being a part of it. In Congo, this is one of the most recent and has now been said potentially worst Ebola outbreaks that we've ever seen, because the containment of it is getting more and more difficult. And then also we have the conflict that has been happening between the M23 and the ADF and many other rebel groups in the Eastern Congo regions, where we are now unable, or anybody is unable to get to some of those places because of the danger that those rebel groups pose to the medical professionals and people who are going in. And I mean, in a personal sense, it does hit pretty intensely, and there is emotions around it. With the people that I personally know in Congo, and after the last year and a half of, living in a different government in their city and going through the siege and the takeover of Goma specifically, it just has felt like this is another blow of tragedy to people who have already weathered so much horrific lives over and over and over again. And so in talking to our team, it's just that constant, how are you doing and how are you surviving? And I know I said this before in the interview before this outbreak, and another thing has affected my team. But the resiliency and the hope, even in the midst of it, is so humbling and just impactful to hear them and them say, well, we're moving forward and we're still going to help. And we're currently have partnerships with the Ministry of Health and have been asked specifically, can you get this out on the radio, get the right education? Can you get to the churches? Can you get to the schools? Can you get to public meeting places and educate the population on how to protect themselves? And our team just saying, yes, we're stepping up, we're jumping in, we're going to do everything we can, instead of moving into a, why is this happening to us and poor us and, oh, another thing. Like, I didn't hear 1 ounce of them being victims of this tragedy, of another crisis they have to manage and get through. There's not even a hint of that, because the resiliency and the determination that is so ingrained in them is like, nope, we're going to step up and we're going to go forward and we're going to respond and we're going to do something. The thing that you can do to help is we really do need funding, and we need medical supplies just to protect the community, protect our school and our programs. It's very simple, like I've already stated. It doesn't take a lot to kill this strain of Ebola, but it does still take something. And then also we would love to provide means for people to be safe if they are going to go visit their relatives that have passed. And that would take a little bit more than just hand washing stations and hand sanitizer and soap and all those pieces that are vital to keep the community healthy, but then also protective gear and masks and gloves to try to mitigate the possibility of contracting Ebola when visiting their relatives who have passed. So those are kind of 2 specific needs. And then we just also need funding to continue to build out our radio and TV programs to bring more and more awareness to the community. But those are kind of the biggest things that we need help with, to help for other people to help our team on the ground help mitigate the fallout of the Ebola crisis that we're facing. But some more good news that is exciting is Congo is in, the DRC is in the World Cup for the first time in 50 years. And they just played Portugal, and it was 1-1, but DRC was awarded that game, which is the most encouraging thing in the midst of everything that has been going on. We're seeing people realize that there's still a place for DRC in the world that's not always negative, and it's not always something that's crisis and going on. But look, they're in the World Cup and they're making a name for themselves in a sport that the whole globe participates in. So we're so proud of our team, and we're so proud of what is happening globally with the awareness of the FIFA World Cup, and then also people rising up and helping change the trajectory and the future of Congo and its people by partnering with them to see transformation come. I think the biggest thing that we are doing right now and really asking people to be part of is this history-making process we're trying to put in place with the Kimberley process being used for the minerals, right? Mm-hmm. And really not just holding the governments accountable, but really holding the tech companies accountable. But I guess the biggest thing is the more awareness that we can bring to what is going on, and the more people we can get involved at different levels. If it's calling your senator, or if it's helping us build out, information, it's helping hold events, whatever it is, to bring that awareness to the different issues that are going on. I think that is kind of our biggest play at the moment, and the thing we believe would make the biggest, most lasting and sustainable impact possible. So that's what we're looking at.
So tell me how we all can support you, how anybody watching can support you guys, can support Africa Today,
Well,
to positively impact what you guys are trying to do.
absolutely. Again, signing up for the newsletter, becoming a donor. I mean, I know everybody needs money these days. We get that. Every penny, though, does make a difference and does help. And again, back to the one, like you might not be able to help every child on the street, but you're going to help one child on the street. So there's always a benefit to that. And then just getting involved. So we have multiple different ways for people to volunteer and get involved and be part of what we're doing, at the, in DC or at, in Brussels or in the UK. Who wants to be a part of that? They can. If somebody just wants to bring awareness and hold an event or even come to an event, those things are all really beneficial. So, but we have a ton of opportunities for volunteers and those kind of things.
Well, our notes in our description at the bottom of our YouTube page will have links to all of the information and resources for Africa New Day. And if anybody has any questions, just reach out to us, give us comments, and I wish you the very best. We were so blessed and so honored to have you and have this conversation. And you guys are providing so much help and assistance and positive impact and hope, really. You're providing so much hope to so many individuals that otherwise wouldn't have any at all.